we're making a video after the fact of most of our other writing because we've been talking about what we face as consultants in a typical racist first-year comp consulting session, and we realized we hadn't actually explained what those were like, so now we're going to explain what those are like.
I was like that. Yeah, because I mean, it was kind of weird because even like my first semester here doing it was kind of weird because I didn't think I'd see that type of stuff. Like I thought it was like gonna be all okay, just check the grammar, check for content, make sure everything was going okay. But when I saw some of the writings, like for example, one of the first ones I've seen was this kid came in and he was just he came sat down, and it was the Knobloch proposal essay, and he was writing about these students, like quote unquote these high school students that were in low-income neighborhoods and stuff like that. And then he finally explicitly said that they're usually racial and ethnic minorities, such as Latino and Black.
Mm-hmm.
And then his explanation for the reason why they're there was because that's where they want to be. They deserve that. They need to be there. So it was kind of weird because you're just standing there looking at it, and I'm just looking at it, and I'm like, what do I say to him?
Mm-hmm.
Do I confront him anger, like it's like, how dare you say these things? Because that's totally not right. There's a system that's at work and a system at play, and you're being like hypocritical and you're being blind if that's what you think.
Mm-hmm.
Or do I want to be calm and say, I think we can work this out. This is not the way that we want to do these things.
I think you need to reassess the assumptions you're making.
Yeah, or do you just want to say nothing at all and
Yeah.
just pretend like that's not even there and it's not racist at all?
Mm-hmm. What's other typical stuff we find in papers that we just see over and over?
And over. Sometimes it's actually like the total opposite. They're trying to justify this. Like they're saying that it's wrong, but they don't identify race at all. And then
because they're reading a series of articles that are about the inequalities of different kinds of education and how not everyone receives the same education, so not everyone's as well prepared for college. And usually the thesis they come up with says, yeah, these are unequal, but they don't talk about race.
Yeah.
They just talk about class.
Yeah, they always say this is just class, when it's like, well, you're half right. Well, kind of. It's like you're kind of right, but you don't want. And then yet again, you're faced with that problem. Do I want to say this? And of course, it varies by your race and your class, how you want to address it. Because I feel like if I address it, it might come off as the angry black man saying, "Hey, I'm in this block for a reason," and everything like that. And they might not be as well receptive to it. So that's one thing you always have to think of whenever you're doing it. And if I do nothing, it is what is called dying on the inside. Cause it's like you feel like you could have done something, even if you just want to bring it to their attention and they say no, I refute that. That's wrong. They still have to think about it. They're still confronted with it regardless. So because if you just become a bystander in that situation, I really feel that people wouldn't respect you afterwards. Like they wouldn't respect it. If other people were watching, they'd probably be, wow, I thought you were a person of better character than that.
Oh, another one I've seen is when they won't address race, but they'll use the word urban.
Oh, yeah. Urban is... urban. Urban. Like, whenever I see that, like, it's kind of like a... it's not like I take it as disrespect. I just kind of take it as, like, not coward either, but I would take it like you're too scared to actually say how you feel.
Yes.
So you try and sugarcoat words and everything like that. Sometimes in writing, in academic writing especially, sometimes you just need to come out right and say, this is what I mean. Because if you keep writing in circles, people might take it a different way. And they might be misconstrued or something like that. Not as racist, but just as, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yes. We get a lot of immigration papers.
Yeah.
Which are about, make a thesis on the way immigration is handled in the U.S. and defend that thesis. And what you see a lot of times is students will come in doing everything possible. Like they'll just they don't even care about the issue that much. They'll just sort of arbitrarily pick, well, I guess I'll do anti-immigration because we're supposed to be able to write about anything. Yeah. Sometimes, like, even in the class, they're like, first write a pro-immigration paper and then write an anti-immigration paper.
Yeah.
So they'll think that when it's their turn to do the anti-immigration paper, their thesis will be stronger if they just throw out every racist possible assumption about immigrants, including a paper that I got that was written by a student from Brazil who had permission to go to school in the United States, and he had to write a paper about how immigrants from Mexico, Central and South America were criminals who brought drugs into the country.
One that Talisha said, and then one thing I think I've seen as well is language. And speaking about language and people that speak a different language, and how everyone needs to speak the same language here in America.
Everyone needs to speak English.
Everyone needs to speak the same language.
By
and that's
English, I mean white English.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of weird watching people like write that, saying like everyone deserves to speak this way. Anyone, like the rhetoric of America is supposed to be the melting pot, quote unquote, and everyone's supposed to be accepting of you. And it's kind of like the reverse hypocritical view if you say everyone needs to speak the same language, everyone needs to be just like this in order to be accepted within America, within the bounds of America, which I don't know what everyone thinks America was supposed to be based upon. I'm not saying it is. It's supposed to be based upon is acceptance and tolerance. I don't really like the word tolerance, but you know.
Yeah, I don't either,
Yeah.
but we need a better word,
Yeah.
so.
But whenever I see that, again, actually I'm not as conflicted because it has nothing really to do with me. I'm not bilingual quite yet. But I feel like it's kind of weird seeing these papers keep coming through. Like you get surprised because you see people that still think like this, number one. And number two, how do I correct it within this 30 minutes? And it's usually not in that first, like, 20 minutes that you see it. It's usually, like, you know, somewhat between, like, you know, the third, fourth page of the paper, you're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that this is what you were thinking.
Like, talking about grammar, and then by the time you get to the end, you realize, oh, this paper has a very racist conclusion.
Yeah, and it's like, pretty much like, when I'm sitting down, it's like, I don't know what to say. It's like that's very racist. But I don't really just like get up and be like, you're racist. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I'll see you later.
After you've already, helped them with 4/5 of their paper.
Yeah, and just walk away. I really feel like I always feel compelled to help the dude or the person or the woman or the person.
Yeah, the dude or the lady.
Yeah, dude or lady. And it's because like I feel, because I usually don't run into racist women. I don't know. It's just how it works.
It takes a different form.
Yeah, it takes a different form, and that different form is more or less like they scoot away from me.
Yeah.
They slide the paper over, kind of they show like signs of fear. It's not really in their paper. It's more or less like physical action.
They don't do that to me.
I wonder. That's really strange.
The racist women I've seen, and this is just a stereotype because I do see the overtly racist stuff in women too, but like the one that I see more often with women students is taking sort of a white savior approach, like, oh, these poor people.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
if only they had been taught white English, they would be so much better off. Like,
And that kind of upsets me because, like, first of all, I had to fix my English sometimes whenever I have to talk to people because it's kind of weird because you can't do it. Like, you can't just speak in your regular tone because, first of all, that ruins your social capital.
yeah.
And, like,
So you're not
your
bilingual,
cultural
but you
capital.
have multiple Englishes.
Yes, I have different types of English that I use, like, like different levels because some people really do think that, the way I speak English, like, dictates how smart I am, which is really backwards because I really feel like intellect is just your applied knowledge that you have. So, there's the language I have, and there's the English I use around friends, and there's the English I have to be at work or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird.
What do you do when you see students who come in with that English, and if their papers are written in that English?
It's really difficult because now you're not confronting racism from them, you're confronting, like, power and privilege and racism from the outside.
You have to protect them.
Yeah, it's more or less protecting someone. I have too many friends that come in, and I sit down with them, and I tell them, this is brilliant, but it's not brilliant because everyone else won't say it is. Because everyone else won't feel it is. So we have to reword it in a different way and to make it acceptable by academic standards. In order for us to be considered academics or intellectuals, we have to sound somewhat like you. Mm-hmm. Except, he has that urban feel to him.
Yeah.
So that's what.
Except sometimes you'll get exoticized. Like.
Yeah. And then once you get exoticized, it's just a bad cycle. What happens?
What is it like?
Whenever you get exoticized, you're usually like that standout, exemplary black person. Or I've even seen a couple Latino people coming here from Latin descent coming here, and I help them with their writing as well. But then I always think when I leave, oh, they're gonna think he's the only good writer or something like that. Like he's that exceptional one because everyone else writes this backwards way that can't be accepted. So that actually is one of the worst forms of dying on the inside, because now we're conforming to you,
Yeah.
but we're just trying to be heard, saying that it's okay for us to speak in this way, but we're speaking in the way that you want to speak, so it's really not actually going anywhere.
You're cooperating with this white standard of English
Yes.
and making other people conform to it.
Yes.
Like, you're part
Every
of the
day.
system.
Yes. Whether we like to admit it or not, like, I'm part of the system saying, no, we can't speak like we're supposed to speak, like we were raised to speak, so we have to speak this way, and that will sound smart, and hopefully we won't, like, lose ourselves so much so we can come back and then, I don't know, write the same way.
Yeah.
It is difficult because first of all, as consultants, I feel like we have to beat around the bush sometimes because we can't just say stop.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's not the way we're, like, in practicums that we're just told to act. Because we can't say stop, this is racist, or stop, this is not correct. We have to usually, thought process or
I wish I could have paused
questions.
it and come up with, like, an essay response.
Yeah. So wait, let me get something. Because, I mean, there's no way that, because if you come up with that response, people might take it as anger or like as in like something that you're attacking them. Because if you say like stop, this is wrong, this is racist, or stop, this is wrong, why are you thinking this? People might take offense and be like, oh, what? And they won't take the time to actually think that, well, I'm just trying to state your problematic facts here. I'm trying to help you. They're going to take it as I'm trying to attack you.
But at the time, he seemed like he just realized what he did, and he had a lot of trouble following me, and that was because I was stopping to think a lot, and I was tripping over my words, and I had to read it and then process exactly the way to respond to that.
It's just it's difficult because number one, you can't see like the progress afterwards. But as soon as they leave out of that door, they might just say whatever.
Well, I didn't understand that, so I'm going to keep it the way
I know,
it is.
keep it the way it is. Or number two, like it's really difficult sometimes to rephrase your feelings or like reharness or recycle your feelings into like this like new box of here I'm gonna just like sugarcoat this and give it to you. Hopefully you'll get what I'm really trying to say.
It was especially difficult because I was afraid he would take it as you can't say that, like just because the one thing that I hear from like my relatives who are avidly conservative is you shouldn't be so PC, like you should just tell it like it is, and he very much thought he was just telling it like it is, like.
I don't know. That's a big thing about being PC, especially here.
Yeah.
Whenever I have to, first of all, put on my new voice and talk to people.
Your new voice.
Yeah, you can't just talk in the regular "What's up" voice. You have to talk in your professional "How are you doing" voice.
Good morning.
Good morning voice. I mean, and then I sit down, I see this stuff, and I really just want to go. And just kind of like not like angrily like throw the paper in their face, but it's like slide it back, like let's think about this before you turn this in, because I'm not gonna say this is racist. I'm gonna say people are gonna think you're racist. I mean, if we were able to take it to that point and that level without people getting like disgusted or like offended, I really think that people would be able to go further even in the confines of 30 minutes, even in the confines of 5 minutes. I believe that we'll be able to get somewhere. Rather than playing the guessing game.
By saying, let's think about this, and point specifically.
Yes, let's think about this. What you just said here. Why would you say these things? Because let me tell you how this is going to be viewed. Because I don't know, because even if you want to play the game of they might think you're racist. We can play that game, but I mean, I'd rather say, why would you think this? Keep that in that same part so we can actually focus on that. And kind of take blame, not fully take blame off of them because you thought it. I said, why did you think this? Because you obviously wrote it, unless somehow you plagiarized, which still is bad. But there's so much racism.
I'm sorry, that's not funny.
No, it's just there's so much racism. It's unbelievable sometimes that these things happen, and I hear some things that people go through like when I'm just sitting here and just listening in, or if someone comes in, I can't believe this person said that. And then I can't recall some of those, but it's just like, what did you do? Some people say they did nothing, and you can just see the frustration on their face when they did nothing.
How do you feel when you overhear one of your coworkers do nothing in a situation?
Okay. I'd have to answer that question and then I have to answer it another way as well. When I hear them do nothing, it's kind of like a, wow, I thought we were cool.
Yeah. I
That's,
thought we were
yeah,
friends. Yeah.
that's the kind of offense I take. Because if you do nothing, especially when you know I'm here and
Yeah.
I always picture like if no one is around and you hear something like that, you're basically condoning that action. And if you're condoning an action with someone that's like can be offended that's close by, it kind of like surprises me that level, and then I have to think, wow, what would they do if I wasn't here? That type of
Yeah.
that type of
Yeah, I
thought.
get that.
So it's kind of like whenever I have to sit down and someone something that writes about religion, a race that's not my own, sexuality, gender, I would always feel like if someone was there, what would they say, or how would they feel, or the fact that someone might be listening, that's part of that group, a highly
Yeah.
marginalized group. So I always have to feel like I have to speak, and I'm a mouthpiece for all those people. So if I hear that, and like someone that's supposed to be a mouthpiece, especially a consultant, doesn't say anything, kind of sucks.
Have you ever had conversations with your coworkers after they've gotten out of one of these sessions where they did nothing?
No,
No?
no, because I really don't want to talk to someone that did nothing.
Yeah, like they don't have my back.
Yeah,
so.
they don't have my back, so I really can't we've gone through so many practicums that say we need to do this, we need to help, we need to do this, and if you still do nothing.
Sometimes there's a click like, oh, I've been doing nothing. That's wrong. And then they start doing
they
something.
just start doing something. That's fine.
But some of them don't.
And just leave it.
Yeah.
After whenever I say that's racist, I'm like, whoa, man, calm down. Like those are usually the sentiments I usually get. Calm down.
Calm
It's
down.
not that racist. Like, no, I've heard it's not that racist
Yeah.
before. It's like not that racist. Like it's not that racist, or it's not racist at all. It's like
Or
yes, it
you're
is.
too sensitive. Or you're just looking for race.
Yeah, it's like you're just looking for it. I'm really not actually. I really am like looking just to, like, not to blend in the world. It's just like the
You
fact
just
that,
try to get angry all
Yes.
the time. You just like being angry.
No, I don't like being angry about it. Is that I've done nothing sometimes and I'll never do it. I've done it like twice.
I've also done nothing sometimes, and I was one of the people who like thought I could get away with just saying, you know, you do have some assumptions there that you can think about, but let's go ahead and move on to the next paragraph.
Yeah.
Like, I've done that so many times, and then we even got to our like very first racism practicum, and I was like, oh, I shouldn't just let them get away with it.
Yeah.
And it's actually morally bankrupt for me to let them get away with that, because there would be no consequences for me to talk about racism with them.
Yeah. I just pretty much realized that I'm not contributing to forward progression if I'm just letting them say that, number one. And number two, if I just do nothing, I'm not going to feel happy at the end of the day. It's like I feel like I avoided conflict at that temporary moment, but it's going to stick with me longer if I don't say anything.
Like, it's become like obvious that it's my job to point it out. Like, there's no downside, and the only downside is that if I don't do it, then like Jay will no longer be able to trust me. We will not be cool anymore.
And also, I feel like if I don't say anything, then I really feel like I'm not being an exemplary person. Like whenever I say you should say these things, if I'm not saying them, then how can I expect someone else to defend me? If I'm not going to defend myself, who else? Like why would I expect someone else to?
So once you know that it's okay to talk about race in your writing center workplace, like, it does give you more responsibility, but it makes you feel better, like,
Yeah.
safer.
Yeah, I mean, more responsibility, but it's a better reward when you do, because you're like, wow, I handled that. I handled that situation. And you can walk away saying, I don't feel bad because I said what I wanted to say. And they hopefully are going to go think about it. I'm not saying they are going to go. Hopefully they're going to go think about it. It's great. I like that.
We had a lot to say.
Yeah. I didn't know I had that much to say.
Yeah, especially for people who have